Is Vietnam really that bad of a country? Let's talk about it. Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. If you didn't catch yesterday's video, we talked about the 10 pros of living in Vietnam. But today we're going to cover the polar opposite, and we're going to talk about 10 things that a lot of backpackers and tourists talk about why they live in Vietnam or just visit as a tourist. Let's not waste too much time on introductions. Let's get straight into this and let's look at the number one, complicated work visa processes. Going to Vietnam, you're going to need to get documents to stay there. You guys are probably aware that Vietnam has got rid of their 6-month, 12-month, 2-year visas. They've got rid of every visa. All you can get now is a 30-day e-visa. And per some inside talk that I've got, Vietnam is working on considering similar options, or not options, but ideas that Thailand does, Malaysia does, where after a couple visa runs, they pretty much block you from their country for the remainder of the year until the new year. So ideally, from what I've been told, you're only going to be allowed to renew your e-visa like 3 times. And this is common in a lot of Asia. Like here in Malaysia, if you first get here, you get 90 days. And then when you leave and come back, is the second time you come in, they'll stamp you, no questions asked, they'll stamp you, but they circle it with a red. And what this means is this is your last time. So if you leave and try to do another one, they see that, like the immigration guy sees it, like, oh, you can't come back. So if you're here for 180 days, they say no. Thailand, like it's pretty much you go into Thailand and you extend it, then you got to leave, come back. You can do it like 3 times, I think it is, and then you can. Vietnam is doing 3, if I'm not mistaken. So that means you only have 2 options: 3 runs, go home, or get a job. Get married, I guess, is another one. And that leads you to getting the visa process. Visa process is kind of annoying because there's no real way to do things simply. Like you have to always bribe somebody. There's always some nonsense, whatnot. There's still schools, I'm not going to name who they are, but there's some major schools that are still doing work permits to this day that are still having to do with fake because they just can't get through the government process. And the government process isn't hard. It's just the government makes it hard, which is really stupid. If you are getting out there, it's just a hassle. And I know for anyone that is not American, only Americans get this advantage, but everybody else, to get your paperwork done, you have to mail it back to your embassy back home, to your country. Like Philippines have to do this, the UK have to do this. Only Americans can walk into the US Embassy in Vietnam and get everything stamped and documented, and then that gets their work permit. So that makes it really hard for like Filipino teachers and a lot of Western teachers to get paperwork done. So you have to get all that stuff done before you get to Vietnam. And then when you get there, they usually give you a headache about it. Like you need to translate it, or this is the wrong company, or you have the wrong stamp. It's so effing annoying, man. My advice for this, though, if you do want to come out to Vietnam and work, just work for a big school. Like ILA, VUS. I don't like recommending these schools, really, for my own reasons. But EMG is another one, major education. Like, these guys can get your stuff done quick. APACS is another one, but I'd be very careful about them. Where else you at? Language barrier number 2. Unless you're fluent. Learn as much Vietnamese as you can, otherwise you'll find yourself frustrated. This is true. A lot of Vietnamese only speak like a little bit. You always hear about people say Vietnam speaks amazing English, etc., etc. Vietnam does not speak amazing English, or etc., etc. They kind of have the same complexes like you'd see in China, where the only ones that really speak it are the inner big cities and the rich people, for say. You're not going to go out to a country farm area. And some Vietnamese are just like, hey, what's up, bro? Like they might say, hello, what's your name? You know, like simple things. Overall, Vietnamese English is not that good, like at all. Honestly, and I know this is hard to say, I honestly think sometimes like it's kind of like Japan. Like Japan English is not good at all. Like it's actually quite bad. Most people don't even speak English in Japan, despite what people tell you. And I think it's just kind of like the excitement of learning Japanese for Western people. So there's no need to teach people English because everyone wants to learn Japanese, right? Either way, I would recommend learning Vietnamese. It's not a hard language, despite what anybody will tell you. Just learn the basics and then just start going out in town and talking to people. They will correct you. And over time, you'll learn it. Like, that's how I learned Vietnamese. I just went to markets. I learned how to say things that related to the market. And over time, I just started asking, like, Kai Zi, which just means, like, what's that? And they tell me, and I learn it. I'm like, oh, Kamanchi. You know, like, I learned how to say different things. Just use it. But, yeah, if you're going to live in Vietnam, you have to learn it. I know you'll hear older Western people say, no, yeah, don't. I got a wife. Like, you're really missing out. You know, imagine living in America, and you couldn't talk to your own people. You just had to point or, like, make weird noises, because that's what Vietnamese hear when you talk English. You're like, hey, can I have this? They hear this, blah, 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 blah. You know what I mean? And when they speak Vietnamese, they're like, xin chào khỏe, con tôi tên là. You just hear blah, 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 blah. Learn the language. or you're really kind of like suffocating your experience, because Vietnam is a great country when you get to the language, and then you can also start understanding what's going on with these speakers, and you can get into the gossip circle. Vietnamese love the gossip, but definitely learn it. Number 3, too crowded, too many people. I mean, that's what crowded means, stupid. Yeah, it's definitely not as dense as like Singapore, Hong Kong, or Japan. Vietnam is definitely crowded, but it's in the cities like Hanoi, Saigon, Da Nang's not too bad. Ha Long Bay's so-so. But yeah, it's usually in the main cities. Like Ho Chi Minh City is just packed. It's ridiculous. Hanoi is packed because that's where the government main offices are. So you have a lot of Vietnamese moving there to work there. The south is the international city. So you have a lot of Vietnamese, you have a lot of Western people there. You have people sending their kids to Saigon to learn Western and learn these jobs. So it is definitely freaking packed. Does it give statistics? Several other countries have also denser populations. However, it still ranks 11th most crowded of about 28. Okay, so it's one of the higher, about 311 people per square mile. That's not too bad, but yeah, that's still, I think that's an average, because when you get to Saigon, it's like 700. Like, it's ridiculous. But yeah, you're always kind of like bumping into people. You don't have personal space. And another kind of bad etiquette that Vietnamese typically have in the culture is they don't respect your space, so you'll be pushed around a lot. People will bump into you. People will be all up in your face. Like, they'll be in your face looking at their phone. Like, it's not like they're trying to piss you off. They're just all up in your face, you know? There's definitely that. But yeah, there's a lot of people. So if you are claustrophobic or if you hate being around a lot of people, Saigon is definitely not the city for you to be, but it's also the main city of opportunity for Western people. Number 4, too much litter and pollution. This is so true. This frustrates me so bad, and I don't mean to go silent. This really does piss me off. Sometimes you might see a foggy day in Vietnam when it's really smog, yes. Vietnam's air quality is the worst in the world. I didn't know it was the worst, but like I was just in Thailand, like Pattaya was bad, dude. It was insane. More than 60,000 deaths per year. I would think that number is way bigger. A mask is not gonna freaking save you. I mean, it's bad, dude. I see Westerners wearing like 3 masks out there sometimes. But yeah, it's very smoggy. The air is horrible. There'll be times where you don't notice it, but it's still really bad. And on top of that, like he said litter, but he didn't talk about it. Vietnam has trash everywhere. People in Vietnam do not care about Vietnam. Like, it almost seems like Vietnamese hate their country sometimes. There's this like mentality in Vietnamese culture. If you've grown up in it, or if you're living in it, you're married to somebody, you'll understand this a little better. But Vietnamese have this idea of like, if it's not mine, I don't give a shit. This is why you see public areas so destroyed. This is why you see outside of houses so destroyed. But when you go to a Vietnamese house, it's so clean because it's theirs. They take, like, you'll see Vietnamese like constantly washing their phones or their cars because it's theirs. But everything that's not theirs, they don't care about. So Vietnamese throwing trash on the ground, peeing everywhere, stuff like this is very normal in Vietnam because it's not theirs. And this is just a culture thing. And like I've opened a program. It's called Project Vietnam. This is back in like 2016. And the idea is we were cleaning up areas of Govop. And people were just destroying the areas again. And when we interviewed them, they were just like, oh, these people come and clean this stuff up. Why do we care? They just throw more garbage on the ground, you know? So you're not going to fix it. And you're just going to have to get used to it. Until the government steps up and starts taking some action towards this and changing the mindset of this, it's not going to change at all. I mean, it is crazy too, because if you are an English teacher, you'll notice that kids are required to keep their classrooms clean. But again, it's their classroom. But when they're outside their classroom, they're just throwing shit everywhere too. But when you're in their classroom, do not throw anything on the ground. They'll get angry. I'm dead serious. Go to a student's classroom and throw stuff on the ground. They will flip out. But start throwing things out the window or the door, and they'll just laugh. Or they won't even care. So it's sad. Vietnam is definitely extremely, I did not know it was one of the worst. Like, Ho Chi Minh is bad. Like, it's really bad, bro. Noisy construction. Yeah, so I mean, there's always construction, there's always cars honking, there's always bikes honking, there's always people yelling. There's no inside voice in Vietnam, it's always yell, yell, yell. Even if you're right next to somebody, they'll start yelling to talk to you. So yeah, there's always just noise. Get used to it. If it's not all that, it's karaoke. Like, it's just always noise. And one thing about Vietnam is people like to turn their houses into stores, karaoke restaurants, or just have random parties all day and all night. Yeah, if you want real quiet, you definitely probably want to go outside of the main city, but still, even in the countrysides of Vietnam, you're going to have to deal with like karaoke. Good luck. Good luck, man. I mean, we are talking about the bad things in Vietnam, and I'm trying to make these sound good, but yeah, the noise in Vietnam There's no justifying it. It's effing insane. I hated it. I truly hate it. Number 6, chaotic but calculated driving. The driving's not calculated. What does he talk? Let's read this actually. When you first arrive in Vietnam, you might not be used to the motorbikes whizzing by in traffic. However, the chaotic driving here does have a calculated flow. It is as people have learned to a dance routine, but it does have its scary potential risks. Oh, that's all I wrote. Okay. The traffic is not calculated. People just do what the fuck they want, and they honk at you if you're in their way. That's all there is to it. They do what they want. If you're in their way, they'll honk at you. They'll be driving to the roadside of the road honking at you. It's insane to me. You'll be walking on a sidewalk and they'll honk at you. You'll be stopped at a red light. They will honk at you. You will be stopped, somebody giving you food because you're at a drive-through restaurant. They'll be honking at you. You'll be at your house sitting at the patio and they want you to open the door. They'll start honking at you instead of just talking to you. It's chaotic. And the way they drive, there's no rules. You'll see people flying out of the intersection for no reason to do it. You get PSD driving. Like when I was in Thailand, I was really nervous when I was driving a car because I was always scared. Like somebody's going to fly out in front of me or act stupid. Thailand, they don't really do it a lot. Like it happens here and there, of course. I mean, it happens in America, but it's nothing like Vietnam. And I had this like PSD kind of like mentality when it came to driving. I was always like freaking out and slamming my brakes on stuff when I should have been. The best way to get around this is really just learn the dance. As he says, it's a big dance. Have your mirrors, and really, I guess the best tip I give for you is watch your back, drive defensive and offensively. Just be out there for yourself, because if you get hit, most of the time they're just going to take off anyways. If they bump into you, they're not even going to look at you. When they honk at you, they're going to look at the ground because they're cowards. So you just can't win. I will tell you though, never rent a car in Vietnam. Just get a bike. The car is not worth it. There's too many risks involved in regards to you being hit, you hitting people. Cops constantly pull you over. There's constant toll bridges you got to go through all the time. If you don't speak Vietnamese fluently, it'll end up costing you a fee. Like, it's just not worth it. I did it for like 6 months, and it was the dumbest thing I ever did in my life in Vietnam. And the car was literally free. Somebody gave me the car for 6 months, and it still was the dumbest thing I ever did. Number 7, unstable electric power performance in some areas. I was in Da Nang during the Filipino tornado. I'll try to find the footage of that. But I was there during the hurricane to where the point, like the roads had water, like it was like 1.5 feet up, the power was out, and the buildings were like swerving. Unstable power, yeah, that's normal. When I lived in Lazi and Phan Thiet, it would go out for days sometimes. One thing about Vietnamese, like electrical government workers, is they'll cut the power to like fix stuff or update cables and stuff like that, but they won't tell anybody. They'll just do it. And then when you go out there and ask, because you'll go down the road, you're like, oh, there's construction. You'll go talk to them. Be like, oh yeah, we're taking the power down for 3 days because we need to replace these wires. But they never told anybody. So if you got food in your fridge or anything like that, sucks to be you, bro. Like, they have no sympathy for you. Restaurants would have to shut down. They would lose money. They didn't give a shit. This doesn't happen too much in like Saigon or Hanoi. So if you are just going out as an English teacher in the main areas, you won't see this. Number 8, nightlife noise could keep you awake. And we just talked about this, like karaoke. Vietnam's a loud country. We actually just talked about that right here, noisy. So we could talk a little about this. Vietnam is ultra noisy. Simple as that. If you are going to Vietnam to be quiet, retire, and calm, you're a fool. Go to Thailand. Go to Laos. Hell, go to Cambodia. Just Vietnam is not the place to go if you want quiet. Let's read it actually, just curious what he says. Vietnam provides plenty of social opportunities even if you are not native, true. However, the noise can keep you awake, which may not suit you if you have an early morning shift. You can always work a second shift out. Like shut up. No, don't tell me that. Just be respectful. But yeah, Vietnam is definitely a loud country. So if you are in Vietnam to retire and be chill and quiet, yeah, it's not going to happen. Even if you go to places like Hoi An or like the outsides of Da Nang, where it's typically is more quiet, you're going to have those days where it's just like, shut the you know what I mean. Number 9, mosquito disease. Oh, there's so many mosquitoes out here. I've never heard anybody get dengue fever in Vietnam. I heard about it in Indonesia. Like, I've heard a few friends get it and some people that backpack that I kept in touch with on WhatsApp. But I've never heard anybody get it in Vietnam. Like, if you got a story, let me know below. I'd love to share it if you want me to. I've been bitten. Like, I got like 3 right here. I've been bitten so much in Vietnam by mosquitoes. It's insane. You just can't get rid of them, no matter what you do. Everybody got this like Chinese medicine way to do it. Nothing works. They're always freaking there. So get used to it. Yeah, just get used to it. But yeah, you can't get over it. I mean, you can sleep with a net around you fine. They'll find a way in there. When you're driving to your job at a red light, a mosquito will come bite you. Like there's a mosquito in here right now. Like they're everywhere in most of Asia. Vietnam though, it's excessive. And number 10, dangerous areas. Yeah, I actually lived in District 5 for about 7 months. I have some gangster ass stories about that area. I even had the military police at my door one night. It was such a crazy time. Let me read this though. Let's see what they said. Dangerous areas. Most cities have their best and worst neighborhoods, just like anywhere else in the world. True. The highest crime rates among tourists occur in Ho Chi Minh City or Hanoi. I mean, that's obvious. I wonder if they're going to get into like areas though. You also need to take precautions near seaports and airports. Watch out for blah blah. Occurred in Ha Long City and Hai Phong. Yeah, I haven't talked about Hai Phong in years. Hai Phong has a lot of issues, but it's an amazing city, bro. If you want to live in Vietnam long term, Hai Phong is awesome. It's just south of Ha Long Bay. It's a really, really nice city, and it's got like its own little beach. It's just a nice area. It's very modern too. It doesn't get a lot of talk either, but it's actually a really nice spot to be. And then high rates of racketeering, smuggling, prostitution, drug dealing. Yeah, this happens a lot. I talked about this in a video like last week, I think it was, when we talked about the harsh truths of Vietnam. This stuff happens. No, we've actually talked about safety of Vietnam. This stuff happens, but for the average tourist, you're not going to be involved in this. This usually involves high-end people in the country. I can't say the G word because of what we're talking about, but you know what I'm talking about. But this does happen. We don't tend to deal with it. I have stories about me kind of being put into these situations when I was living in District 5. And if you're not aware, District 5 is like the Compton of Ho Chi Minh. It's where the crack's at. It's where the gangsters are at. It's where the hood's at. I think there's a couple YouTubers that actually do videos about that area, talking about how dangerous and stuff it is. And I hear these Vietnamese talk about, hey, you don't go here at night. And I remember seeing these videos like, I used to live right near that neighborhood. You know, like, I was fine with it. When I was there, I didn't know where it was. I didn't know what it was. You know what I'm saying? It's called Chinatown, right? So I just figured, this is Chinatown. How bad could it be? And it had this big mall there with the bowling alley. We used to go bowling there every week. And you're right next to Bui Vinh, which is really cool. And you're next to District 7. It was just in a good spot. So I loved being there. But yeah, it was, dude, the stuff that went on. I seriously woke up one day at like 3 a.m. with military police at my door. It was an insane night. So that does it for the 10 cons of living in Vietnam. Let me know what you think below. Is there something that they missed on this article? I think this is actually a pretty good list, and I'm surprised they mentioned this because this is actually a big problem. And it's not talked about too much. It's just kind of ignored and paid for. Again, check out the other video, and we talked about we talked about the 20 pros on the other video. This one, we just talked about the cons. So check that video out below. With that being said, guys, I think we're done for the day. Exciting. We learned a lot about Vietnam. Hopefully you enjoyed these. And if you want to send me any of these articles for me to go over and talk about my own stories and whatnot and experiences, there's an email below. Send them on over, and I will throw it into the queue. And when we get some time, we'll go over it. So till then, guys, I will see you again.